What's up guys, I'm Random Frank P. Today we're going to be checking out the brand new Oculus Go, the very immersive all-in-one VR solution. So in this video today for you guys, we're going to go over it all, my thoughts and experiences, pros and cons, in case you're interested in picking up the Oculus Go and finding out what it's about and if it's right for you. Now before we begin, I do want to say I've never actually used an Oculus Rift before. However, I have owned an HTC Vive since its release, and I try to game on that around once a week. And given the Rift and the Vive are, pretty similar in terms of the overall experience, I think I can take that and apply it to this review for you guys. So first, inside the box, obviously they give you everything you're gonna need to get this up and running right away. There's also a second mini box inside that's gonna hold all your accessories. They include some things like a charging cable and the wall adapter for that. Plus you get this glasses spacer insert, so people with glasses can wear this, obviously, as you saw. They give you a cleaning cloth, plus batteries, and a lanyard to hold their little remote. My first impression of the Go was first, it's really simple and modern looking. I do like that nice muted gray color to it. And there's no obnoxious, logos or anything, so I think it looks appropriate for this. There are some buttons on it, we'll go over that in a second. But yeah, very simple and altogether really lightweight, so that's obviously good because you don't want anything heavy on your face weighing you down. And then also you have the Go remote, which is pretty much your controller for this. And yes, there is only one included with this. I thought you would have two, like most of the VR gaming experiences, but they only include one. So jumping right in and checking this out, also very tiny and ergonomic as well. On the front of it, you have two buttons, like a back button and their home button pretty much with the Oculus logo. You have the trackpad here, which is also a button you can press in, and on the back is your trigger. But then back to the Go. I mentioned before, there were some buttons on it. On the top of the headset, you have two buttons. One is your power button and a up and down volume rocker. And honestly, that's it besides the two ports. On the left side here, you do have a 3.5mm headphone jack for plugging in headphones if you want, plus a micro USB port for charging this up. And I mentioned before, it is lightweight. It's only 1.03 pounds actually, so definitely a lightweight construction. You do have a lot of adjustment here on the band, but I found for me, I didn't have to, change that at all. Just at the stock kind of adjustment that it comes at feels perfectly fine for me, which is definitely good. I also do want to say before we begin, like I said before, there is a headphone jack on the side, but what I really liked is there's actually speakers built into this. So you kind of have this spatial 3D audio experience built into the actual headset, so you really don't even need a pair of headphones if you don't want them. And now we're going to talk about the overall display, getting more into the specs. One thing about the Go that's really appealing is you don't need to use your own smartphone to put it in like a lot of kind of VR devices out there do. You just need to download the app initially to get it all paired, but you don't need to put your phone to this. This has a dedicated display, which is why it's very appealing for an all-in-one VR device like this. So as for the display, it is 2560 by 1400 across the one LCD panel inside, and it either operates at 60 or 72 Hz refresh rate depending on the app. When you compare that to the Rift is only 2160 by 1200, which is across two 90 Hz OLED panels. So the Go here is giving you the edge in terms of a higher resolution, but it doesn't run at that nice and smooth 90 Hz refresh rate. Although I will say that at the 60 and the 72 Hz refresh rate, I did not feel any sort of motion sickness, so keep that in mind, that's always good. But the one area that really starts to separate itself from the Rift is in the spatial tracking pretty much. So this has 3 degrees of freedom, so you can move, look all around all you want. It's going to track that, which is the 3 degrees, but the Rift has 6 degrees. You can do all your movements, but it also has those external tracking sensors and the IR sensors, so it can really track every movement you make, so you can look around objects real time in 3D. This does not have that. Since it is an all-in-one device on your head, you can look around, it'll track you just fine, but you can't go up to an object in-game and physically look around it. That's where it separates, because again, there are no external sensors outside of the built-in tracking here. So for example, like in this Stranger Things demo here, I can't actually look around the Demogorgon in real time because we are limited to the 3 degrees, but it is still very immersive. But the trade-off here, since again, the key word here, all in one, is I don't have to set up the external sensors. I don't have to plug it into my PC, then power it all. There are no cables, there are no wires. It is just you click a button and you're good to go. The setup time is 0. And that's why it's really appealing. Next up is the overall availability of games and apps. Once you're at the Oculus Home, I believe they boast over like 1,000 apps. Granted, not all of them are good, but there are things like Netflix, Hulu, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you can think of pretty much. And that's always good, so you can, watch any movies on any apps and stuff like that. You also have an internet browser. There's things like big screen VR, so you can go in and, just watch videos and stuff like that. And for the most part, there's a pretty good availability in terms of free apps and games. So you can go in and check those out. And if you want, of course, obviously there are paid apps and games that you can go in, download, and play with this. Now, I do need to note that none of the games that you may have already for your Rift are compatible with this, because again, it's completely separate. You cannot play your Rift games on this, even though it would be pretty cool. But obviously this is not strong enough or powerful enough to run those games that would be usually run off of your PC if you had the Rift. But overall, I think the interface is really user-friendly. It's simple. The Oculus Home is pretty cool and customizable. It's all right there. And obviously you can navigate with your little remote. Another thing that's pretty cool is with the micro USB, you can hook this up to your PC and transfer files like picture files, video files, anything like that, and store them on here, because the Go comes in 2 different capacity options in terms of the memory space. You can get it in either 32 gigs, which is the one I have for $200, or 64 gigs for an additional $50. So you do have internal space on here where you can load in files and stuff like that to view it all on here. But I just think as a whole, breaking this thing down, like I said, yes, there are plenty of games in the store, but I feel like from my experience, this is much more suited to be an entertainment device and not so much a dedicated gaming device or anything like that. At the end of the day, there's really nothing cooler than kicking back, watching Netflix all in your own kind of contained theater, browsing your Facebook wall. It's really your own personal space. Now, I know there's gonna be a large majority interested in these things for one reason and one reason only. I'm not gonna say it. You're thinking it. I'm thinking it. And they do also even put out, like when you're first setting it up, that you need to be above a certain age. I think it was like 13 or something like that. And to use this for appropriate content, but come on, we're all human. So as we start to wrap this up, I'll break down my pros and cons for you. And really, for the price at $200, I was really impressed with this. Again, it's an all-in-one solution, so you don't need your phone to plug into this, which is probably, depending on your smartphone, an additional $500 to $1,000 extra. For $200, it's all in one, and you're getting a higher resolution than the Rift, which is pretty cool. But again, the Rift is completely different. This isn't even meant to replace the Rift. This is more of like a standalone introductory VR device. So a lot of the reviews out there I've seen comparing this to the Rift, it's not really fair because it's not trying to be that. This is very different, and it's also half the price of that. Some other things I like about it is, like I said, very lightweight, and for me, it's comfortable. And I showed you guys before in the beginning when I was unboxing it, they had that glasses insert. That for me is huge because I do wear glasses full time actually. And one of my biggest complaints, like I said, I've been using the HTC Vive since its release. One of my biggest complaints with that is it's kind of top heavy, unlike this, and glasses just do not work at all with that. It's really uncomfortable. With this, with glasses, it all feels great. Another kind of added bonus to that, I've seen some complaints about this with there being external light bleed coming in from around the nose where you can see, external light. But with that kind of glasses insert, it brings this closer to your face. And I didn't notice any external light bleed coming in from the outside. So I think that's a cool little added bonus to there if people are experiencing that. Some other pros is, yes, you get a pretty decent app store with tons of available games and apps, entertainment stuff, horror, sci-fi, sports, music, travel, traveling different places around the world. All that stuff is there for you. Now I'll talk about the cons, and yes, there is a fair amount. The biggest one I think is the 2-hour battery life in this, which is kind of a bummer. I was hoping for a bigger boost than that. However, inside you can go in and adjust the brightness level, and like most devices out there that are wireless, if you adjust the brightness, you can get better battery life out of this. And since this is right on your face, sitting that close, you can lower it to about 50% and then extend your battery life a little bit more. So that's always good. The second con is, since this is 32 gigs, like I mentioned, only like 23 of those gigs are available for you to use because I guess the operating system and stuff they have on this takes up a pretty chunkable amount. So it's kind of bummed to see that only 23 gigs or so were available from the 32 gigs that are on here. And then also one thing I wanted to bring up was the chromatic aberration with this, which is what a lot of VR devices still suffer from with the panels. So what that is pretty much the shift of colors depending on the angle you're looking at this from. So when you're wearing this and looking around, everything looks just fine. But the second you start to tilt your head down, but you're looking up, since the glasses in there are still concave and they're shifting, you kind of get a little bit of a color shift depending on which angles you look at. Not a huge deal, but it was enough to kind of make me be like, wish that wasn't there. The color tinge was just kind of off with the chromatic aberration, like I said. But I mean, altogether, guys, I am really impressed with this. $200 is a really, really good price for this. It's really hard to complain considering what this is in the end. Again, this is not trying to replace your Rift. It's half the price, it's all in one, it's its own thing. But I think from my experience, I would sort of categorize this best as an entertainment device more so than just a gaming device. So I like it, I would recommend it. And I think as the App Store starts to grow and become more readily available for more people to put out games and apps, this will definitely become more of a better value in the end. So if you want to check it out, I will have the listing for you in the description down below. And that'll wrap it up. If you liked the review, give it a thumbs up to show your support. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at RandomFrankP. And last, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Well, I'm Random Frank P. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good day.